My grandmother's house was up in the mountains, and yeah, we had to like turn the antenna out. So we had somebody, especially in the wintertime, it was really bad because we had to go outside. Somebody had to go outside and like turn the antenna towards like either Chattanooga or Atlanta, depending on what station we wanted to get. Seriously. So lived up in LJ, up in the mountains up there. All right. So like I said, the premise for this and the brainchild for this came from me getting more active in some trading communities. And what I keep getting struck by is people that come in and they just want to ask what to trade, as in, what crypto should I buy right now? Or I've got $100, what should I spend it on? And you know, these are, I obfuscated the names because I didn't want to sell anybody out, but these are in some of my chats here, the things that I see. You know, people come in and they just want to ask the question like, what should I do? You know, should I buy Bitcoin? Should I hold it? I'm at a loss. I'm sick to my stomach. You know, these kind of questions that people have, and I want to help people. I really do, because I don't want there to be anguish and pain, and the answers are not simple. But the first thing that people need to do is they need to stop asking other people what to buy. The question they need to be asking is how to develop themselves. And so what people should be asking themselves as a first thing, instead of what to buy, is how do I properly manage my risk? That's the most important thing. And I know nobody wants to hear about that, but I'm going to say it anyway. Don't ever let one trade get out of hand. The other thing people should ask is what they should use as their strategy. Hopefully you all have a strategy. And if you don't, you need to think about it. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, some of the best are really, really simple. And your strategy can be, well, I did this research on this particular coin and I like it, so I'm going to allocate this amount of risk to it. And that's fine. And the overall, what you need to be asking is, how can I improve my trading skills? Because trading is a skill. You can also call it a craft, or you can call it an art as well. It just depends on how you look at it. And so these are the questions that people should be asking when they're first getting out, but nobody does. You know, a lot of people, you know, they don't understand what risk is. And, you know, the summer is almost over and I need a Lamborghini. Okay. I've got to get this Lamborghini because, you know, I'm going to get it with the top down and I'm going to live my life. I don't have time to learn anything. I just need to know, you know, what to buy right now. It's just going to win, because if it wins, I don't have to worry about how much I lose, right? I think you need to develop yourself. And this is not, I'm not just saying that to be, you know, self-help, empowering. I'm not Tony Robbins or anything, but, you know, that to me is what trading is about. You know, if everyone could find opportunity in the market, then everyone would be rich. Everybody be a billionaire. Why stop there? Be a trillionaire. But the point is, it's not. You have to find the opportunity for yourself, whether it's in business, starting a business, you know, where you want to start a restaurant, you want to start a little home business. You have to do it. Nobody just comes to your door, knocks on the door, and leaves you $200. You know, and a lot of people, they go searching for tips like, you know, this thing's going to pump, you know, this is what you need to get into. But they're just one-offs. I mean, what are you going to do on the next one? I mean, are you going to retire on one tip? So the reason I ask that is because, you know, when people talk about trading or they talk about investing, the number one buzzword is going to be financial freedom. And the question I want to ask people, or I do ask people, is, are you free if you depend on someone else for tips or advice or anything like that? I mean, the whole point is to become financially free, not have a boss. Why would you want to trade one boss for another? I mean, that's the great allure of trading, is that you are your own boss.
You mean doing it full time? Yeah, I suppose.
Well, yeah. I mean, why else would you do it? I mean, well, okay, you can do it for fun, of course, but don't you want to do it to the point where that can be, you know, all you have to, you can do it. You could trade from a laptop or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. And so if you're beholden to somebody else, that's going to kind of maybe add some extra risk to that, isn't it?
Definitely.
So that's why you got to have faith in yourself to develop. So I made a diagram, and I'm just going to go through it really quick because I don't really like diagrams, but I like this one because it's basically the process, I believe, in creating a trading system. Okay, it's going to start on the left-hand side with basically your inspiration. In other words, you have a theory or a premise that you want to express. Now, me, I like technical analysis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a chart and I'm going to find some indicators that I use. You know, people use moving averages, they use stochastics, they use Ichimoku, they use any number of things, okay? And then what you need to do is do some research. Now, you can do that through Google, YouTube. I know we were talking about some YouTube channels out there. Some are better than others. Some are more to the point about particular things. When I'm searching for something, I want to go to the most distilled amount of information I can. So once you've done all this research, you want to come down and you want to have your basically the indicators you're going to use with the rules you're going to use. And then you go into a cycle of testing those rules, refining the rules, testing them again, refining them. And you're eventually going to get to a point of confidence and you're going to be able to make a trading plan. In other words, when I see this in the market, I'm going to do this. And that's what you do to go through the process of figuring out what you want to do. And in some way or another, you have to go through this process to get to a point where you can actually start to analyze things for yourself.
Wes, would you mind sharing your indicators in the chat after you're finished?
I will, actually, as a matter of fact. So what I wanted to do, for your point ahead of time, is I wanted to do by example. And for that, I've used different indicators throughout my trading career, but I'm always trying to find new things. Not because I'm throwing everything out the baby with the bathwater, but because the markets are always changing and I want to stay sharp. You know, what may work last month or what may work in 2017 is not going to work in this market, obviously. You know, you don't see very many travel agents anymore because of Expedia. And all the retail giants are going to go away because of Amazon. So the market is always changing, whether it's business or trading. So you have to keep yourself sharp. So the reason I did this was to keep myself sharp and also to show you guys the process. So these are two indicators that I'd never used before, but are very, very popular. Well, at least the VWAP is. This one I kind of found that's a little obscure, but I'm going to explain it to you. So VWAP is something that is basically stands for volume weighted average price. It works like a moving average, if you're familiar with that. In other words, it tracks price. You know, if price goes up, this line also goes up with it. And you'll see an example in a moment. And it's best used for day trading in the short term, like the 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute. That may not be for some people, but this is just for example. And then I use something called the Hikkake setup. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but I saw it. I liked it because it kind of ties into what I've been doing recently with price action patterns. And I'm using this for my trigger. In other words, I wanted to put two indicators together because you need at least two. You can't just use one because it's not going to be dynamic enough. You want to have two that kind of give you like a confluence of events that you can use. And so these are the two things I'm going to put together. As part of my process, what I'm going to do, or what I did, is I went through research. And I put like 3 of the more influential YouTubes that I had on here. And so the first one, which I highly recommend, is a podcast, Chat with Traders. They're up to like, he stopped kind of doing it, but he's got like 150 episodes where he interviews, and it's a podcast, you can listen to it, of different traders. And so I was listening to this one in particular. I was on a walk one day and I was like, you know what, I think I'll look into this VWAP stuff. And then the next one I looked at was this Humbled Trader. I kind of like the name of the channel to begin with. But she goes over it a little bit more in detail. And then there's an even more detailed one right here by Zip Trader. Okay. And so what I'm doing basically in this research process is just going through and going to YouTube, typing in VWAP trading and letting the algorithm tell me some popular stuff. And then I'm going to take it in. I'm going to absorb as much as I can and learn. The VWAP, too long didn't read. I'm going to make it really simple because I like simplicity now. It can be used in a lot of different ways. You can use it to identify a trend. It can also be used as a support or a resistance. And it can also create volatility bands if you use like an extra setting on it. But I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to use it to identify the trend, bullish or bearish. So if price is above the VWAP, bullish. If price is below it, bearish. Super simple. Super simple. And then this setup, Hikkake in Japanese, I don't know if it's the exact translation, but this is what the website I pulled it from says. It's a trap or ensnare. The premise is that you want to find a place with some candlestick action where a bunch of people have gotten into the trade, either long or short, and price comes back very quickly. And you got to think to yourself, if you've ever been in a position like that, where you're in a trade, you got in, the market goes your way a little bit, but then it starts coming back, that fear that sets in. And eventually, depending on how much risk you're taking, you're going to have to get stopped out. And when a bunch of people are getting stopped out, being forced out of positions, that's when it goes up. I'll post this in the chat when we're getting finished. This is the website that I read and gave a very good explanation of it. I wanted to post this on TradingView, but they won't let you post websites on there. I got very mad about that, but I'll post that in the chat at the end. So basically, here's an illustration of what it looks like. So as I was saying, this would be a bullish one where basically price is coming down, 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 down. You have this inside bar. This is the price action. It's basically the high and the low that fits within the prior bar, followed by a big bar that breaks both the lows, comes back up, and there's where you're going to enter. So basically, some people were trying to go short on this big green bar right here. It comes up, and now they're going to have to get out of their position because it's not going their way. Don't worry yourself if you're not quite catching it, because remember, the point of this presentation is really just the process. So just understand that this is a setup that I'm looking for. And so if you want to learn it, you need to look at a lot of these.
Oh, well, what's the dotted line in the graph?
That would have been the entry point. So in other words, after it breaks the lows and comes back up and this bar closes, the next bar you're trying to buy it when it breaks the high of this inside bar. I've got my two indicators that I want to research. And so now I need to figure out if they actually make money. So I'm going to put these together in a trading rule. Now, basically, I'm looking for the basic criteria, the inside bar. That's going to be my trigger from the Hikkake. And basically, my entry rules are that it needs to be above VWAP if I'm taking a bullish trade. These are for long setups. The risk I'm going to take is I'm going to take a stop that's just below the low of the bar that was the Hikkake bar. I should be more specific. And then I'm going to take two different targets. I'm going to take one off when it gets to a 1-to-1 reward risk, and the other one at a 2-to-1. Okay, just very simple. So I've got my plan together. And if you want to, how you can put these indicators on a chart is VWAP's going to be on any chart. Okay, and then with Google, I found some available Hikkake indicators on TradingView as well, but I didn't quite like them, so I made my own. And basically, I wanted to show you guys the process of that, but it's going to take too long, so I made a montage. So just sit for a second and you can watch it. This is putting together an actual indicator, doing the research, finding some examples, and listen to some South Park music.
Do you code for a living?
No, just for trading.
Wes actually laments the fact that he cannot code at all.
I'm too dumb to code. Yeah, I'm not smart enough.
So if you think that you can't do it, Wes actually does code some indicators with line script on TradingView. And then also,
once I put everything together on the chart, it looks something like this. Let me bring it up. So it's going to look something a little like this, where I wanted to see the VWAP is going to be the blue line. I'll make that a little bit bigger. Is basically in other words, here's where we would have an example. It's above the VWAP. There is basically going to be where a bunch of people got in short, because you can see it's a big red bar right there. And now what I would look to do is get in on a breakout of that level again with a stop down just below that bar and my first entry being out here. So you would have been sitting this for a while, down a little bit, but it's going basically. And so that would be kind of like the entry you'd be looking for. All right. That's a real brief explanation of what I put together. So what I did was I basically went back through the month of May and I tested this on a 5-minute chart, because remember, I want to do a day trading chart. And I went through manually, went back through and looked and see, like, okay, how many times did this work? You know, when I took my two targets So, you know, the first one up there is a 4, so that means I took the full target, the first and the second target. The second one was a loss. You know, would have lost, you know, $2, depending on how much I was risking. Had some break evens, had some losses, but at the end of the day, I had 10 wins, 6 losses, 2 break evens, and that brought me down to like a plus 19 multiple of my risk. It looks like it works, right? It works. Are we really done? No, we're not. We're not really done. No. You know, I only tested for 1 month of data. I only tested in one direction, going up. And what happened to be what was May? Was it a bullish or a bearish month? It was pretty bullish, right? We're coming off that March low, right? In order for it to be valid in all conditions, in other words, for us to go forward into the future and actually use this to make consistent money, then we need to test on both up and down. We need to test on different markets, and we have to be a lot more rigorous. But the key point that I want to emphasize is, for this period of time that I tested, it did show us some pretty positive results, did it not?
Yeah, you're
So
up.
so I took, and again, circling back, I took 2 indicators I never researched before. I just did the research, I put them together, I applied them to the market, and I see some positive results. That is the start of coming up with a trading strategy. And, you know, if I were to just, you know, started and it all just looked like crap, I just lost money, then maybe I'll move on to something else. But since there's something there, it's like, maybe it doesn't work every month of the year, but it did work once. And so now my challenge is figuring out what made it work this month and how can I repeat this success. So you don't want to automatically throw something out. You don't want to automatically say it's not going to work. You want to be very rigorous about it. And if it doesn't work, then what you can do is you can look at each trading signal. In other words, go back and like take a screenshot, or like maybe have a journal entry even of each time you saw your signal. And you want to have at least 30 to look at, because that gives you some statistical significance. You want to try to get thousands of them if you can. And this is where programming really comes into play. So you need to take notes on what makes a winner. And you also need to make notes on what makes a loser. And then you need to put those side by side, or however you do your organizational process, and analyze it and figure out, okay, what rules can I do that maximize my winners and minimize my losers? That is the process. Or what if it doesn't work? In other words, you go through all the rigorous testing and you find out it actually doesn't make any money. Well, what you can do is you can actually, you know, start over with new indicators or new rules or new ideas even. And that sounds like a lot of work. Yes, it is. And this is trading, as opposed to people that just come into a chat room and ask for what to be. So what I ask you to do, what I want to leave you guys with, is to just trust the process of trading, building your own system and developing confidence in it, rather than, you know, relying on, you know, tips or anything else. You can take some of Doug's tips. I mean, he's probably pretty good, right? But at some point you need to like go out on your own. You need to trust your own process of doing the research. I was listening to all you guys talking in the beginning, like Elise, you know, she's really into this one space right here. That's her place that she wants to really focus her time, and that's fantastic. That's what you need to get into and learn all you can about and develop your own system. And so those kind of things are what you really need to focus on for your trading. So that is my message for this evening for you guys. Thank you for listening.